Grandma laid down the carving knife beside the last slice of Christmas roast. My brother cleared his throat, practiced deliberate. We were gathered around the same oak table I'd once polished as a kid. In the house everyone still called home. Then Diego spoke. "Lena, we need to discuss your living situation." I kept cutting my ham into tidy squares, my nervous holiday habit, and asked calmly, "What about it?" He launched into a speech about our parents getting older, how the upstairs nursery would be perfect for the baby he and his fiancée plan to have, and how I'd lived here rent-free for long enough. Mom nodded. Dad chimed in with something about practicality. The decision was clear. New Year's was my deadline. They didn't know I'd been the one paying the property taxes. They didn't know I'd covered the hospital bills. They didn't know I'd stopped the foreclosure. And they certainly didn't know the deed was in my name. I set my fork down, drew in a slow breath, and decided the pretending ended tonight. Ignoring every rule of dinner etiquette, I pulled out my phone and dialed. Property Protective Services. Came a calm voice. "This is Elena Markham." I said evenly, "I need a team at the Willow Ridge property." Mom's whisper cut across the table. "Who are you calling?" I held up a finger. "Trespass removal." The room went silent. Diego gave a thin, nervous laugh. I reached into my purse and slid out a folder. Recorded deed, wire confirmations, and the LLC paperwork for the company that had purchased the house after the mortgage fell behind 6 months ago. Dad's face went pale. "That can't be right." "It is," I replied. "I paid $847,000 to keep this roof over our heads, and now you're trying to evict me from my own home." Minutes later, blue lights shimmered across the snow outside as a gray SUV pulled up to the curb. 2 officers in windbreakers stepped out, calm, professional. I met them on the porch before anyone else could twist the story. "Elena Markham," I said, handing over my ID and the signed order authorizing removal of unauthorized occupants, if necessary. My hands didn't shake. Behind me, the door creaked open. Mom stood there, eyes wet with something between shock and sorrow. Diego pushed past her, voice sharp. "You wouldn't actually do this. It's Christmas." "I wouldn't," I said softly, "if respect went both ways." Then to the officers, "We'll start with voluntary compliance." We walked through the house together, room by room, documenting everything. In the would-be nursery, a paper moon mobile swayed in the draft. I thought of the nights I'd slept in hospital call rooms to earn the money that kept this place standing, of the unread messages, of the promises that evaporated whenever I asked for help. Back in the foyer, I laid out the terms clearly. You can stay as tenants under a written lease starting January 1st, market rate, minus 20% for family. I'll handle maintenance. You respect boundaries. If not, you have 7 days to relocate. Either option is legal. Dad looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, cardigan sagging. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because every time I carried the load," I said quietly, "you acted like it weighed nothing. I want a family, not a fairy tale." The officers waited. The house itself seemed to hold its breath. By morning, the storm had settled into a glittering calm. I brewed coffee, laid out 3 copies of a plain lease, and opened the windows to let the air and truth move freely through the rooms. When the doorbell rang, the notary stood there, scarfed and punctual. I signed first, sealing the life I'd built while everyone else looked away. Mom came downstairs in slippers, rosary tangled between her fingers. She read each line twice. "Boundaries," she murmured, testing the word like it might cut. Dad stood at the window, jaw tight, then took out a pen. He signed slowly, and the paper stopped trembling. Diego arrived last, holding a small box of ornaments. "Found these in the attic," he said, eyes red but clearer than before. He hesitated with the pen. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," I said. "It's rent and respect." He nodded and signed. The notary stamped the papers, and the sunlight caught the dust in the air like confetti. That afternoon, we began setting the house right. The nursery that wasn't became a bright study with the old oak desk. The dining room shed its throne of expectations and gained ordinary chairs. I labeled 2 folders, repairs and holidays, and pinned a shared calendar on the pantry door. At dusk, We ate soup from wide bowls. No speeches. No verdicts. Just quiet warmth and bread between us. Later, I stepped onto the porch and flipped on the light. One home. Finally mine. Finally shared. Finally peaceful.